Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu tells ABC News targeting the country's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, would end the fight between the two countries, not escalate it. Netanyahu's comments come as Iran's exiled crown prince says it's time for the Iranian military and security forces to abandon the Islamic Republic. Reza Pahlavi's grandfather was the last Shah of Iran before the 1979 Iranian Revolution. The exiled crown prince of Iran and advocate for secular democratic Iran, Reza Pahlavi, joins me now for more. Sir, thank you for coming on. You say now is the time for the Iranian people to come together and reclaim Iran by getting rid of the Ayatollah. Why do you think that? And could the Iranian people do this without an international effort?
Well, first of all, this is not a new fight for us. It's been going on for decades, and particularly in the latter years, we've seen how many times the Iranians have gathered together in protest and defiance of the regime, knowing full well that as long as this regime is in place, there's no hope for a better future for all of us as Iranians. Now the opportunity has been provided in the sense that when you're fighting an extremely brutal and repressive regime, when it's been now declawed and we are sensing almost a state of collapse by the regime, by people beginning to defect, by relatives of the regime taking flight, by the leader himself hiding in an underground tunnel, I think that this is an opportunity that we have never had this far in the past 4 decades. And this is the best opportunity for us to finally overcome this regime and get rid of it. So I think my fellow compatriots are energized in the fact that finally they can see light at the end of the tunnel, and all the martyrs and all the people we have lost in our struggle against this regime will not have died in vain. This is our moment in history to change not only the course of things in our own country, but something that I believe would also be to the best interest of the free world.
Now, you've built a relationship with Israeli leaders. You even visited the country in 2023. Have you spoken to any of the leaders you've met with since last week's strike started?
Not recently, but this conversation has been going on for a long time, not just between me, but I think you're talking about Iranians reaching out to the world, including the Israeli citizens and vice versa. We've seen a lot of communication in social media supporting one another, because we all understand that this evil regime is really what separates us not only from the free world, but by bringing a totally different future for our area. Rather than having a warmongering regime that has been the root cause of instability and terrorism and antagonism, this is a nation that wants to be at peace with its neighbors, with cordial relationship with our neighbors in the region, whether it's the Israelis or the Arabs and others, but also with the free world. And Iranians are waiting for this opportunity to prove the world that unlike this regime, we are in spirit and in thought and in principles and values the very same thing that free nations in America or in Europe are enjoying, and Iranians deserve better than what they have. And that has always been my life ambition, to help Iranians achieve a secular democratic future, because they deserve much better than what they've got right now, and we will get there.
So if the Ayatollah is overthrown, what happens? Who would take power there, and what do you think your role would be?
Well, I've stepped in the scene to lead this transition, to be able to see the process not only now until this regime finally collapses, but particularly what after next. So there's no void and there's no vacuum created. We are talking to people within Iran who are beginning to reach out to us to coordinate this effort. There's, of course, people that are mobilized outside, people that will be mobilized inside. And the important thing is that while we have to maintain stability post-regime collapse, we are also addressing the transition process that leads to how eventually we reach that future that we all want to have. And there's a constitutional process that needs to take place. So basically, you're talking about an interim government that maintains orders in the country and makes sure the country continues functioning, but at the same time sets the stage for a democratic process whereby Iranians will ultimately be able to choose through the ballot box what ultimately is what they want for their own future. I'm here to lead this process of transition, and I have a plan beyond just this political transition, but also for Iran's recovery and economic prosperity that goes hand in glove with a future that gives people of Iran not only a promise of liberty, but a promise of prosperity and reconstruction.
Now, your family left Iran in 1979. If you returned, would you return as a monarch? And how do you see that working in this democracy you describe? Do you think people would support that? How do you see that working out?
Look, my focus has been in all these years only one thing, and that is that what we have right now in Iran, a theocratic dictatorship, is not what the Iranian people want. It's not what has benefited them. On the contrary, it has bring our country to the brink of poverty, to the brink of desperation, to the brink of destruction. Our country is being literally destroyed by this regime. So we are all ready to step in to change the course for the better. I think Iran has the potential to be the next South Korea of the Middle East, as opposed to having become the North Korea of the Middle East. It's not because the people are incompetent or the nation doesn't have resources. It's just a corrupt mafia-like regime that is plundering our resources, murdering our citizens, and setting havoc in the region. The future we are talking about in one that will be the exact reverse of what this regime has done to us. And my role in all this, and that's what I've always committed to as my only mission in life, is to make sure that we have, contrary to this regime, a future whereby Iranian citizens are, in the true sense of the word, they have a self-determination. It's a government of their choice. They participate fully in it. And in the true sense of the word, they are represented by a government that cares for them and is committed for the betterment of our country, rather than use our country's resources at the expense of our own citizens to raise havoc in the region with the ideology of exporting their sinister vision beyond the region, even to the shores of the Western Hemisphere.
All right, exiled Crown Prince of Iran, advocate for a secular democratic Iran, Reza Pahlavi. We appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you.